A millionaire saw his humble employee helping the homeless and made an offer that changed her life. Emily Carter had been working at Miller Enterprises for 3 months when she developed a routine that added a spark to her otherwise monotonous workdays. After a long day filled with endless paperwork, she would head to her usual stop, a small corner market, to pick up packs of bread, juice, and granola bars. Once she paid for her groceries, she would step out, bags in hand, and cross the street to the sidewalk in front of the company. There, a small group of homeless individuals waited for her, some sitting on makeshift blankets, their faces weary but hopeful. "It's so good to see you, Emily." An elderly gentleman named Marvin would greet her with a warm smile. Kneeling beside him, she would begin handing out the food. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we have juice and granola bars." The tired faces would light up, and laughter would fill the air as they accepted the snacks. In those moments, Emily felt a warmth in her chest, a familiar sensation that came from knowing she could make a difference, even with so little. Little did she know, Logan Miller, the CEO of Miller Enterprises, was watching her from his lavish office high above. He was not easily impressed. Cold, rational, and focused solely on business, he rarely took an interest in his employees' personal lives. However, over the past few days, he had noticed Emily leaving work every evening to spend time with that group of homeless people. At first, he dismissed it as a coincidence, but he quickly realized it was a daily commitment. What intrigued him further was that she never seemed to seek anything in return. Leaning against his polished desk, he observed Emily's smile as she talked to Marvin and the others, puzzled by her selflessness. "What does she get out of this?" he murmured to himself, shaking his head as he turned back to his work, although a part of his mind was captivated by that peculiar employee. The next day was hectic for Emily. She spent most of her time organizing reports and responding to emails for her supervisor, the head of the finance department. The job was demanding, but she never complained. She knew it was an opportunity. As she worked through a stack of documents that afternoon, she felt a shadow fall over her desk. Looking up, she found Logan Miller standing there, staring directly at her. Her heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Miller," she said quickly, attempting to mask her nervousness. "Emily, right?" he replied, crossing his arms. She nodded, surprised that the CEO even knew her name. "How long have you been working here?" he asked, his tone unexpectedly casual. "A few months," she responded, blinking in surprise. Logan nodded slowly, as if weighing something in his mind. "Do you like your job?" Emily blinked again, taken aback. It was a simple question, but coming from him, it felt like a hidden test. "Yes, I do. It's challenging and I'm learning a lot." He studied her for a moment before giving a brief nod. "Good. Keep it up." Then he walked away, leaving her in a state of confusion. At the end of the day, as was her custom, Emily went to the market, bought her usual snacks, and crossed the street to distribute them to the homeless. Logan, having already left the office, happened to exit just as she began handing out food, pausing by his car to watch her again. The scene stirred something in him, both unsettling and intriguing. He had never seen someone dedicate themselves to helping others without any expectation of reward. As the days rolled by, Emily continued her routine. She worked diligently in the finance department by day and devoted her evenings to helping those in need. Logan observed her from his office, increasingly perplexed and fascinated. Why did she do this every day? What drove her to spend her limited resources on strangers? The following week, while finishing up a report, Emily received a notification about a last-minute meeting with Logan in the finance department. Her heart raced. It wasn't fear of the CEO, but rather the weight of his presence that made her anxious. He was known for his serious demeanor and sharp gaze, always getting straight to the point, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was going to be scrutinized. As she entered the meeting room on the 34th floor, she felt the eyes of her colleagues on her, and more importantly, Logan's gaze. He acknowledged her with a nod, signaling the meeting was about to begin. "Let's get straight to the point," Logan began, his voice firm. "The latest report shows solid growth, but we have unnecessary expenses that need to be optimized." As the department heads presented their numbers and suggestions, Emily quietly took notes, focused on her work. She didn't even notice Logan looking directly at her until the meeting concluded. "Emily," he called, making her tense up. She turned around to see him leaning against the table, arms crossed, his expression neutral. "Come with me." She simply nodded, trying to appear composed as she followed him to his office. Once inside, he closed the door and sat behind his immaculate desk, motioning for her to take a seat across from him. "You've been working here for a few weeks. What do you think of the company so far?" he asked, studying her. "I really like it. It's challenging, but I'm learning a lot," she said, feeling the weight of his gaze. Logan nodded, then shifted the topic. "Every night when you leave the building, I see you helping those homeless people." Emily's heart raced. "You see?" she repeated, blinking in surprise. "My office overlooks the building entrance. I watch you every night." She felt her cheeks heat up at the realization that he had been observing her actions. "It's not a problem, is it?" she asked hesitantly. "No," he replied, shaking his head. "I just don't understand. You do this every day. You spend your money and your time and you don't seem to want recognition. Why?" Emily relaxed slightly, realizing he wasn't judging her. He was merely curious. "I like to help. But why?" she shrugged. "If I were in their place, I'd want someone to do the same for me. Besides, it's a small thing, but it makes a difference." Logan watched her for a moment, contemplating her words. Then he leaned forward, clasping his hands on the desk. "You do this every day?" "Yes," she confirmed. Logan sighed, murmuring something to himself before nodding. "You're dismissed, Emily." She blinked in surprise. "What?" "You can go back to work," he clarified. Confused, she stood up and left his office, closing the door behind her. She paused for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. That evening, as she repeated her routine of buying food and handing it out to the homeless, she felt a strange sense of anticipation. Logan was still watching from above, but now his interest felt more intense, more personal. Days passed, and the end of the month approached. Emily had settled into her routine, working all day in the finance department, stopping by the market, and then crossing the street to help the homeless. Logan's observations continued, and he found himself increasingly perplexed by her actions. That Friday, however, something different happened. It was payday. When Emily opened her banking app that morning, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. Her first paycheck had arrived. Although it wasn't a large sum, it was enough to cover rent and bills. Yet, as the day unfolded, one thought nagged at her: Marvin, the elderly man she often helped. He wore a tattered coat and shoes that barely held together. There was also Miss Ellen, who slept with only a thin blanket, and Paul, a young man in his 20s, who always claimed he would escape this life soon, yet never managed to find a job. Emily knew she could do more for them. Before she realized it, she altered her route. She stepped into a discount clothing store and bought coats and shoes for Marvin, adding a thick blanket for Ellen and some essentials for the others. Then she went to the grocery store and purchased enough food to ensure everyone had a decent meal that night. By the time she left the store, her wallet was almost empty, but her heart was full. "This is too much, Emily," Marvin said, holding the new coat with teary eyes. "I don't even know how to thank you," Ellen exclaimed, hugging the blanket tightly. Paul, usually tough, simply looked at his new sneakers and muttered, "This is going to help me get a job." Emily smiled, feeling that familiar warmth in her chest. "You don't have to thank me. You would do the same for me," she said, her heart swelling with joy as laughter filled the air. But when she checked the time, a small but important detail hit her. She had no money to get home. Panic rose as she realized she had spent her last cent. With no other option, she decided to walk. How long could it take? The answer came 30 minutes later as the streets grew emptier and the cold crept in. Her feet ached in her uncomfortable work shoes, and pulling her thin coat tighter around her, she sighed, realizing she still had a long way to go. Just then, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. She glanced at the driver, and her heart skipped a beat. It was Logan Miller. He raised an eyebrow. "How far are you planning to walk?" Emily hesitated. Grade, of all people, it had to be him. "Home," she replied, trying to sound casual. Logan glanced at the road ahead. "You live far." "Yes," she admitted. There was a brief silence before Logan sighed and unlocked the door. "You did." Emily hesitated. Accepting a ride from the CEO didn't seem like the best idea, but exhaustion overcame her better judgment, and she climbed in. The warmth of the car enveloped her, and she sighed in relief. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Logan glanced at her. "Why are you walking home?" Emily saw no reason to lie. "I kind of spent all my money." Logan's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "You got paid today?" "Yes," she nodded. "And you already spent everything?" "Yes," she confirmed again. "On what?" he pressed. Emily hesitated before simply answering, "Helping the homeless." The car went silent. Logan stared at her as if she had just uttered the most unbelievable thing. "You spent your entire paycheck helping strangers?" She let out a small, awkward laugh. "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds like a terrible financial decision." Logan blinked a few times, clearly taken aback. "Because it is," he said, though she could sense he was processing her response. "Not to me," she replied, crossing her arms and looking out the window. Logan kept his eyes on the road, contemplating her words. After a few seconds, he took a deep breath. "Do you at least have money for rent?" Emily smiled, looking away. "No, but I'll figure it out." Logan let out a short, humorless laugh. "Unbelievable. You really—" He stopped mid-sentence. Emily raised an eyebrow. "I really what?" "Different," he stated, his tone more thoughtful. "Is that a compliment?" she asked, trying to gauge his intention. The rest of the ride was quiet, but not uncomfortably so. When Logan finally pulled up in front of her building, she let out a relieved sigh. "Thanks for the ride, Mr. Miller." He looked at her for a moment before responding. "If you're going to keep spending your money like this, at least let me know. I'll cover your ride home." Emily laughed, shaking her head. "I'll manage." "I always do." She opened the door and stepped out, but before entering the building, she turned to him, saying something that made Logan sit in his car for several minutes after she was gone. "Good night, Mr. Miller, and thank you for caring." He frowned, watching her disappear into the building. For the first time in a long while, he realized he actually cared. The following week unfolded in a routine that Emily had come to embrace. Long days filled with reports and emails at Miller Enterprises, followed by evenings spent with the homeless community she had grown so fond of. However, beneath this comforting routine, a subtle tension began to build, especially whenever Logan would cross her path. She noticed him watching her more intently, his gaze lingering when he thought she wasn't looking. It was both unsettling and exhilarating. Logan, intrigued by Emily's unwavering commitment to helping others, found himself struggling with his own feelings. He had always believed that people acted out of self-interest, yet she challenged that notion. Her dedication stirred something within him that he couldn't quite name. As days turned into weeks, he couldn't shake off the thought of her, and it frustrated him. He wanted to understand her, to uncover the motivations behind her selflessness. That Friday, Emily received a notification for a meeting with Logan. Her heart raced as she made her way to his office. She felt the weight of his presence even before she entered. And as she walked in, she noticed he was standing next to his desk, arms crossed. The air was thick with anticipation. "Emily," he began, his voice steady, "why do you help those homeless people every day?" She blinked, surprised by the directness of his question. "Because I can," she replied, feeling the familiar warmth of her conviction. "If I were in their place, I'd want someone to do the same for me. It's a small thing, but it makes a difference." Logan studied her carefully, intrigued by her unyielding spirit. "But you don't have any obligation to do this. Why do you choose to spend your limited resources on them?" Emily shrugged, her heart racing. "Because it's the right thing to do. No one asked me to help, but I want to make a difference." For a moment, Logan was silent, contemplating her words. He leaned forward, the frustration he felt earlier replaced by a newfound respect. "You're remarkable, you know that?" he said, his tone softer. Emily felt her cheeks flush at his compliment, the unexpected warmth of his words wrapping around her like a soft blanket. "Thank you," she managed to reply, her voice barely above a whisper. As she left his office, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. That night, as she distributed food to the homeless, she found herself reflecting on their conversation. Logan had seen her, really seen her, and it made her heart flutter in a way she hadn't anticipated. The days continued to pass, with Emily buried in her work and her evening rituals. However, Logan's presence loomed larger in her mind. He began to invite her to more meetings, seeking her input on various projects, and each interaction deepened the connection she felt toward him. He wasn't just her boss anymore. He was someone who genuinely cared about her opinions and well-being. One afternoon, while Emily was preparing for a presentation, she felt the familiar shadow fall over her desk. She looked up to find Logan standing there, his expression serious yet encouraging. "You're doing well, Emily," he said, extending his hand to her. "I want you on the project team for the upcoming board meeting." Surprised, she blinked. "But I'm just an assistant," she protested, unsure if she was ready for such a responsibility. Logan crossed his arms, a slight smile playing on his lips. "You're more than that. You have potential, and I believe you can handle it." The weight of his belief in her settled over her, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of confidence. "Okay, I'll do my best," she said, determination flooding her voice. As the project progressed, Emily poured herself into the work, driven by both Logan's faith in her and her desire to prove herself. She began to realize that with each passing day, her feelings for Logan were evolving into something deeper. The way he looked at her during meetings, the subtle brush of his shoulder against hers in the hallway, the moments of shared laughter, all of it stirred something within her that she couldn't ignore. Yet with those feelings came a sense of fear. The line between professional and personal began to blur, and Emily found herself grappling with the implications of their growing connection. She was acutely aware of the office dynamics and the potential consequences of a relationship with her boss. Logan, too, was aware of the precarious situation, but he couldn't help but be drawn to Emily. Her warmth, her compassion, and her unwavering spirit captivated him in ways he hadn't anticipated. He wanted to know more about her, to understand the person behind the selfless acts. As the project deadline approached, Emily found herself standing in front of the board members, ready to present her findings. Her heart raced as she spoke confidently, each word flowing more easily than she had anticipated. When she finished, the room erupted in applause, and she caught Logan's eye, a proud smile on his face. In that moment, everything shifted. Emily realized that she was no longer just the assistant. She was a valued member of the team, and she had Logan to thank for that. The recognition felt incredible, but it also deepened her feelings for him, complicating the already tangled web of emotions that surrounded them. That evening, as she left the office, she couldn't shake the sense of anticipation that had settled in her chest. She knew that the connection between her and Logan was undeniable, but with each passing day, she also felt the weight of the world around them, the expectations and the scrutiny of their colleagues. Emily decided she needed to confront her feelings. As she walked home, she thought about how she would approach Logan next. Their relationship was blossoming, yet it was also precarious, and she had to figure out where to draw the line. The night sky above her felt heavy with possibilities, and her heart raced as she considered what the future might hold for them both. The next week began with a palpable tension in the air. Emily had spent the weekend reflecting on her growing feelings for Logan, and as she arrived at work on Monday, she knew she couldn't avoid the truth any longer. The connection between them had deepened, and she could no longer pretend it was merely professional. As she settled at her desk, she felt a familiar flutter in her stomach when Logan walked by, his presence commanding yet oddly comforting. He caught her eye and offered a slight smile, which made her heart race. She could sense that he was aware of the shift in their dynamic, and it made her both excited and anxious. Later that day, Logan summoned her to his office. Emily took a deep breath, her heart pounding as she walked down the hall. When she entered, she found him standing by the window, looking out over the city. He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Emily," he began, his tone steady. "We need to talk about us." Her breath caught in her throat. "Us?" she echoed, trying to mask her nervousness. "Yes," he replied, stepping closer. "I can't ignore what's happening between us. I want to know how you feel." Emily felt a rush of emotions surge within her. I care about you, Logan, but this is complicated. You're my boss, and I don't want to jeopardize my career or your reputation." Logan nodded, his gaze unwavering. I understand that concern, but I also believe we shouldn't hide what we feel. It's real, Emily. The intensity of his words ignited a spark of hope in her heart. But what if it doesn't work out? What if it changes everything? He took a step closer, his voice softening. We won't know unless we try. I don't want to hide you or our feelings. You're important to me. At that moment, Emily realized how much she wanted to believe him. The risk was daunting, but the thought of walking away from what they had felt unbearable. Okay, she whispered, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Let's see where this goes. Logan smiled, a genuine expression of happiness lighting up his face. Good. We'll figure it out together. As she left his office, a sense of exhilaration filled her. The weight of uncertainty had lifted, replaced by a newfound excitement for what lay ahead. She felt lighter as she made her way back to her desk, her heart soaring. Days passed and their relationship blossomed in subtle ways. They shared glances that lingered a little too long, exchanged playful banter during meetings, and found excuses to be near each other. Emily felt a thrill every time their hands brushed against each other, igniting sparks of electricity that sent her mind racing. However, the office was not without its challenges. Whispers began to circulate among colleagues, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling of scrutiny. Some looked at her with envy, others with skepticism, and she felt the pressure mounting. Logan, too, faced questions about their relationship, but he remained steadfast, refusing to let gossip affect their connection. One afternoon, during a meeting, an executive made a pointed remark about favoritism, glancing between Emily and Logan. Emily felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but Logan's expression remained calm and collected. Emily's contributions speak for themselves, he stated firmly. She is invaluable to this team. His words filled her with pride, but they also amplified her anxiety. She didn't want to be seen as the boss's girlfriend. She wanted to be recognized for her skills and hard work. After the meeting, she caught Logan's eye, and he gave her an encouraging nod, which helped ease her worries. As the weeks continued, Emily threw herself into her work, determined to prove her worth. She worked late nights and tackled challenging projects, and with Logan's support, she excelled. Yet, despite the professional success, she found herself grappling with the emotional toll of their relationship. One evening, as they wrapped up a late-night project, Emily turned to Logan, her heart racing. Can we talk about this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. About what? He inquired, his brow furrowing with concern. About us. I love what we have, but I'm worried about how others perceive it. I don't want to be just Logan's girlfriend at the office. Logan stepped closer, his expression softening. You're not just my girlfriend. You're a brilliant professional. I admire you for your dedication and talent. I want everyone else to see that too. Emily felt a rush of warmth at his words, but doubt lingered in the back of her mind. What if this leads to complications? We're already under scrutiny. He took her hand in his grip reassuring. We'll face it together. I believe in you, and I believe in us. Let's not let anyone else dictate our relationship. His confidence bolstered her resolve, and she nodded slowly. Okay, let's do this. As they embraced, the weight of their shared commitment enveloped them. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their desire to build something meaningful. The next day, Emily walked into the office with renewed determination. She was ready to embrace her role, and with Logan by her side, she felt invincible. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their relationship and their careers, forging a path that was uniquely their own. The following weeks unfolded with a blend of excitement and tension as Emily and Logan navigated their evolving relationship. They had decided to be open about their feelings, yet the atmosphere in the office remained charged. Whispers and sideways glances followed Emily as she moved through the halls. Some colleagues seemed supportive, while others were skeptical, questioning her motives and the nature of her relationship with Logan. One afternoon, as Emily sat in a meeting, she noticed the finance director casting dubious looks her way. The tension in the room was palpable. When it was her turn to present, she felt the weight of scrutiny pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her capabilities. This was her moment to shine, not just as Logan's partner, but as a competent professional. Today, I'll be discussing our projected growth and areas for financial optimization, she began, her voice steady despite the eyes on her. As she presented her findings, she focused on the data, the charts, and the impact of her work, blocking out the doubts swirling in her mind. When she concluded, the room erupted into applause, and Emily caught Logan's proud smile from across the table. His encouragement fueled her confidence, but as she returned to her desk afterward, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. That evening, as she prepared to leave for her usual volunteer work, she found Logan waiting for her in the lobby. His presence made her heart race. "You were amazing in there," he said, a smile lighting up his face. "Thanks," she replied, feeling a rush of warmth at his praise. "But I can't help but feel the pressure of everyone's expectations." Logan stepped closer, his expression earnest. "You're more than capable, Emily. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." She nodded, appreciating his support. "I just want to prove myself, you know. I don't want to be seen as just your girlfriend." "You're not. You're a talented professional, and I want everyone to see that," he reassured her. As they walked to the corner market together, Emily felt a sense of calm wash over her. She knew Logan believed in her, and it made all the difference. After picking up supplies for the homeless, they crossed the street to the familiar spot where she had built connections with those in need. "Good evening, everyone," Emily called out as she approached the small group. She began handing out food, her heart swelling with joy as the familiar faces lit up with gratitude. Logan stood back, observing, and for a moment, he saw the impact Emily had on the lives around her. After distributing the snacks, Emily turned to Logan, her eyes bright with happiness. "This is what it's all about," she said, her voice filled with warmth. Logan nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I can see how much this means to you. It's inspiring." As they returned to the car, Emily felt a sense of fulfillment. But as they drove back, Logan's demeanor shifted. He seemed deep in thought, his brow furrowed. "Is everything okay?" she asked, sensing his unease. He sighed, glancing over at her. "I've noticed the way some people are treating you. It's not right." "Logan," she said softly, "I can handle it. I just need to keep proving myself." "But you shouldn't have to fight for your worth," he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "You deserve respect for your abilities, not just for our relationship." Emily appreciated his concern, but part of her felt conflicted. "I know, but I also want to show everyone that I'm here on my own merit." Logan turned to her, his gaze intense. "And you are. Just remember, you have me in your corner." As the days turned into weeks, Emily continued to work hard, determined to establish her place at Miller Enterprises. Yet the scrutiny persisted. One afternoon, she was called into the finance director's office. The tension was thick as she entered. "Emily, we need to discuss some discrepancies in the latest reports," the director said, his tone serious. Her heart raced. "Discrepancies?" "I double-checked everything. There are indications of financial data manipulation," he stated bluntly. Emily's stomach dropped. "That can't be right. I would never alter data. I've worked too hard for my position." The director leaned back in his chair, his expression unyielding. "The board has decided to suspend you until this matter is resolved." Shock washed over her as she left the office, her mind swirling with disbelief. The whispers and judgment she had been facing suddenly felt overwhelming. How could this happen? Logan found her in the hallway, his expression shifting to concern as he approached. "Emily, what's wrong?" "I've been suspended," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "They think I manipulated data." Logan's eyes darkened with anger. "That's ridiculous. I know you didn't do anything wrong, but I have no way to prove it," she replied, her voice breaking. "Give me some time. I'll fix this," he promised, his tone firm. "Logan, you can't just step in. This could hurt you," she insisted, not wanting him to bear the brunt of the situation. "I don't care," he said, his eyes fierce. "You're important to me, and I won't let anyone tarnish your reputation." As he walked away, Emily felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time, she didn't feel alone in this fight. The next days were a blur of uncertainty. Emily stayed home, unsure of what to do or how to clear her name. Then, unexpectedly, she received a message from Logan. "Meet me at the office tomorrow morning. I found something." Her heart raced as she prepared to return. When she stepped into Logan's office the next day, she was met with a tense atmosphere. He was sitting at the table with the finance director and one of his supervisors, their expressions serious. "Emily, have a seat," Logan said, gesturing for her to join them. "What's going on?" she asked, her heart pounding. "There was an error in the review of your reports," the finance director explained, looking uncomfortable. "It was a mix-up, and it appears that the discrepancies were due to internal mistakes, not you." Relief washed over her, but anger bubbled beneath the surface. "So you suspended me without verifying the facts?" The director nodded, clearly ashamed. It was a rushed decision. Logan leaned forward, his frustration palpable. "You nearly ruined a competent employee's career over incompetence. This won't be ignored." Emily felt gratitude swell within her as Logan defended her. "I want a formal apology sent to Emily and a full report on what happened," he stated firmly. As the director and supervisor nodded in agreement, Emily felt the weight of the world lift off her shoulders. "I can return to work?" "Yes," Logan confirmed, his gaze softening. "Thank you," she whispered, still processing the whirlwind of emotions. When she left the office, she felt empowered. She was back, and she knew she had Logan in her corner. The support he had shown her meant more than any promotion or recognition. It was a reminder that she didn't have to face her challenges alone. With renewed determination, Emily was ready to confront whatever came next, confident that she could thrive in both her career and her relationship with Logan. As the days turned into weeks, Emily and Logan found themselves navigating the complexities of their relationship amidst the backdrop of the office environment. With the recent turmoil behind them, they began to embrace their connection more openly, yet the whispers and curious glances from their colleagues still lingered. Emily felt the weight of their scrutiny, but Logan remained a steadfast presence, offering support and encouragement at every turn. One morning, as Emily walked into the office, she noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Colleagues who once whispered behind her back now greeted her with nods of respect. It seemed that her return from suspension had sparked a newfound acknowledgement of her capabilities. Emily felt a surge of confidence, bolstered by Logan's unwavering belief in her. Despite this positive change, Emily was acutely aware that their relationship was still a topic of conversation. She overheard snippets of gossip during lunch breaks, some positive, others laced with skepticism. "She's just using him to get ahead," one colleague had said. Another remarked, "I hope she knows what she's doing." These comments stung, but Emily reminded herself of her worth and the strength of her bond with Logan. One afternoon, Logan called Emily into his office. The door closed behind her, and she took a seat, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. "Emily," he began, his expression serious yet warm, "I want to talk about our relationship and how we can manage it here at work." She nodded, feeling a knot of tension in her stomach. "I know it's complicated," she admitted, "but I don't want to hide what we have." Logan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Neither do I, but we need to ensure it doesn't affect our work or how others perceive us." "What do you suggest?" she asked, her voice steady. "We can keep our professional and personal lives separate at the office. I want you to continue proving yourself based on your merit," he said. "And I'll do the same." Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. "That sounds fair. I just want to make sure people see me for who I am, not just as your girlfriend." "Exactly," Logan agreed. "You're a talented professional, and I want everyone to recognize that." With a shared understanding, they left the office feeling more united than ever in their commitment to each other and their careers. As the weeks rolled on, Emily poured herself into her work and gained the respect of her colleagues. She became known for her sharp insights during meetings, and her contributions were increasingly recognized by the higher-ups. However, amidst the professional successes, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was on the horizon. She sensed it in the way Logan looked at her, the intensity of his gaze, and the moments when their hands brushed against each other. There was an unspoken,